Amen. How's everybody doing? Amen. Pastor is still out of town, so I'm going to try to bring a continuation of Wednesday. It's going to be a little bit different, but Holy Spirit is going to lead the way. He's going to lead the way. Amen. So Wednesday, we started talking a little bit about having faith for the plan. We talked about purpose, destiny, calling, plan, what those different things meant, and having faith for the plan. So I might kind of mention some of that today. If you didn't hear it, then I think there's CDs back there, and I think it's on the website and all that good stuff. So you can get it and hear it. But I don't know. I don't really have I guess if you put a title on this, I guess you can title it Wavering. It's really quiet in here. All right. We're going to get started with this. Let's go to Romans 4. Start at verse 16. Okay, it says, therefore the promise comes by faith, so that it may be by grace and may be guaranteed to all Abraham's offsprings. Remember, we were talking about that on Wednesday, that he guaranteed his promise. Even though he didn't see the promise, he still guaranteed it to him, so he made sure that it came to pass. And Abraham had to push through all those testings and all those places. He had to go back and forth, and he had to keep pushing through, and the Holy Spirit, God, had to keep showing him what the original vision was, what the original purpose was, what the original plan was, so that he wouldn't waver off the plan. He wouldn't deviate off the plan. So it said, by grace and may be guaranteed to all Abraham's offspring, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham. He is the father of us all. So it's talking about the faith that Abraham used for that plan. Okay, so go to the next verse. As it is written, I have made you a father of many nations. He is our father in the sight of God, in whom he believed, the God who gives life to the dead and calls things that are not as though they were. So he was calling those things. Abraham had to keep doing that. He had to keep choosing to believe. Even though those tests came up, those trials came up, he had to keep choosing that and call those things that be not as though they are. Okay, keep going. Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed, and so became the father of many nations. Just as it had been said to him, so shall your offspring be. So we looked at all of that Wednesday about him getting discouraged, getting afraid, being in fear, and he had to push through, and against hope, he still believed. And he kept going back to the stars in the sky, then the sands of the seashore, and it kept telling him that because you obey, you don't deviate off the plan. Okay, the next one. Without weakening in his faith, he faced the fact that his body was good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, and that Sarah's womb was dead also. Go to the Amplified. I think it's the Amplified that says it. I don't know which translation it is. One translation, instead of weakening, it says wavering. No, it's in the next verse. Go to the next verse. Let's see. There. No unbelief or distrust made him waver, doubt only question concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong and he was empowered by faith as he gave praise and glory to God. So in that verse, you can see he did face unbelief and doubt. And we saw that Wednesday, but it didn't cause him to waver. So I'm going to look at the definition of waver. In the regular dictionary, like the Webster's dictionary, Waver is to shake with a quivering motion or become unsteady or unreliable. To be undecided between two opinions or courses of action. To be irresolute. So some synonyms are things like falter, wobble, hesitate, vacillate, fluctuate, where you're kind of going back and forth. So that would be shown in your actions, like what you do. So his actions, we saw time and time again, he didn't waver. And that would be when it would be in his heart. So his mind was kind of, I don't know, I might doubt, there might be some things coming at my mind, but his heart didn't waver. Okay. Even when you look at the Greek of that, I don't know how to say it. I think it's diakrino, D-I-A-K-R-I-N-O. And it means thoroughly back and forth, which intensifies. So when you start to waver, it intensifies, like it gets stronger. Once you start heading that direction, it's harder to get back. So once you step out that way, the wavering intensifies. And then it says literally judging back and forth. So you're literally sitting there analyzing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, judging, which can either refer to close reasoning, discrimination, or overjudging, going too far, vacillate. Now, this is the Greek definition. Overjudging or going too far, which means you've stepped out there. Now you put your mind too much into it. Now your head is you're getting heady with this stuff. And you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're wavering. And it said Abraham did not do that. But we saw Wednesday, he struggled. He struggled to stay with the plan. But he didn't let that cause him to waver in what he did. So it comes from, like, the root word of diakrino is krino, which means to judge. So it means you're taking on the role of, I'm going to judge this situation myself and take it into my own hands to do with the plan that I think should be done instead of what he laid out. That right there, that's what wavering is. Okay. Now we've established that. We're kind of going to go like some different places. I just believe the Holy Spirit's going to tie it all up because it sounds very scattered to me, but I know that y'all are going to grasp it. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to 1 Kings 19. Oh, I didn't ask y'all these questions. Okay, so there was things that he had to face. You can go to 1 Kings 19 and just stay there for a minute. Okay, these are questions that I asked because they're not in the Bible, so I didn't know. All right. So they're promised to have this baby, Abraham and Sarah. They're promised to have this baby. And he said, this is going to be the baby. It's got to come through you and Sarah's lineage, and that's why we touched on that with the women before. I know the woman is important because it needed those genes because it wasn't just about Abraham, because if that was so, then Hagar's baby would have been okay. It was about Abraham and Sarah. So it took two of them and it needed to be that genetic makeup for that baby, for those things to go forth. Okay, so when I was questioning, I was like, well, it makes it kind of sound like once he grasped it, they just went and she just got pregnant. But I wonder how many times they had to try. I wonder if there was any like miscarriages. I wonder if there was any like what like there's nothing said about that, but was he able to be potent every time? Did that even happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, was there times that it didn't work, that they had to keep trying? Was there times that he got weary? And I had said his head had many thoughts. So in my mind, I'm thinking that's probably what was going on. But he still didn't waver. He didn't waver. He did go his own way, and do these things. But it says he didn't waver. Even doing that wasn't wavering. He still stuck to the plan. Okay. All right, now let's go. Okay. All right. Let's dive in. I'm still shaking from worship, so I'm sorry. Okay. Let me look here. I had to look at the verse that I need to go to real quick. Okay, we can start at the beginning. All right. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done. Okay, Elijah had just, there's how he had slain the prophets of Baal with the sword. Elijah had just killed all those false prophets. I think it was like 450. It was a lot of them. False prophets. He had just gone up against Jezebel's false prophets. You know, Ahab was the king over Israel, another evil king that came into place that was trying to lead Israel astray, married Jezebel, a lot of control, a lot of dictation, stuff like that going on. And here comes the prophet Elijah, a true prophet who comes to face this. And all those old prophets that were under, you know, false pretenses, they were slain. So he just had this huge victory. But then Ahab told Jezebel. And then Jezebel sent out her vibes and sent a word and scared the man. Okay, go to the next one. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah. There's a lot of teaching in this. We're not teaching on Jezebel today. If you want to get the information on Jezebel, you can go to the conference call lines and give me your email address. I will send them to you. And you can get a whole week's, I don't know how many is this, I think it's 11 weeks of teaching on Jezebel and the depth and all that stuff. We go through scripture, we go through all of it. So you can do that if that's what you want, but we're not teaching on that today. Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, so let the gods do to me and more also if I make not your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. So she's swearing on her own life. You know, that I'm going to kill you. You're going to be just like them by this time tomorrow. I know you just killed 450, but I'm a powerful woman and I'm in control here. So you're fixing to die. I'm fixing to slay you. And he felt that. He felt that. Well, the next verse. Then he was afraid and arose and went for his life. This man just went against killed 450 other men. And this woman is shaking him. Went for his life and came to Beersheba of Judah, over 80 miles out of Jezebel's rim. He went 80 miles. He didn't have a car. You know what I'm saying? Like 80 miles. These cities and stuff like this, we're going to get into some cities a little bit later. These cities and stuff, these cities aren't just, okay. I mean, imagine walking just to Eagle Lake, walking home today. Y'all walk home today. That ain't even 80 miles. Walk to Katy. Walk. You know, like, there's no cars and stuff. You got sun. You got all this stuff. Okay. And left his servant there. I don't even, you can do what you want. I have to get out of this realm. Her rule, her region. Okay, go to the next verse. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a lone broom or juniper tree and asked that he might die. He said, it is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. Take away my life. I just need to die. So I'm wondering, that had me wondering. We've heard a lot of teaching on, you know, all these things, but the question that I was asking was about, he said, like, I'm no better than my fathers. Like, what does that mean? Where did Elijah come from? Like, what is in him to cause him to waver? Because he's wavering. He's not going with the plan. He's saying, I'm ready to die. I'm done. I can't do this anymore because of this woman. Like, I'm feeling this type of way from this stuff, you know, heavily coming down on me. And I'm scared. I don't even want to live anymore. So, go to 1 Kings 17:1. Elijah the Tishbite of the temporary residence of Gilead said to Ahab, okay, so I was looking up what was Elijah. Elijah was a Tishbite. Like when you have all the little things, the ites and the things like at the end, that means that's the city that you're from. So Tishbite means he was from Tish. So like Galatians from Galatia, Ephesians from Ephesus, you know, those kind of things. So I looked up Tish and I was like, okay, what is this? It says it's near Gilead. So that means that's where his family was from. That's where he was located. Go to Numbers 32. I had to do a lot to figure this stuff out. I don't normally go this many times backwards, but it was just important to me to see, where did this come from? Like, why was this happening with him? Let's see. Numbers 32. Okay. Now the sons of Reuben and of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead on the east side of the Jordan. And behold, the place was suitable for cattle. Okay, remember, they're supposed to be going into the promised land. They're supposed to be crossing over the Jordan and settling on the west side. They're supposed to settle on the west side, on the other side of the Jordan, okay? This is this position that they're in. But Reuben and Gad saw the east side, said the east side looks good for our cattle. You know, we have livestock and stuff, like the east side. The east side. Okay, keep going. Go to the next verse. So the sons of Gad and Reuben came and said to Moses, Eleazar, the priest, and the leaders of the congregation, go to the next verse, the country around, all of those things, go to the next verse, the land the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle, and your servants have cattle. So they're coming before Moses, the priests, everyone, and saying, we have cattle, we want to be on the east side. The east side is where we need to be. So I looked up, what does east represent? Because I did not know. I know, you know, in dreams and stuff like that, but east, you know, the sun rises in the east. East represents the beginning. Where were they at in the beginning? In Egypt. And they were under bondage. So it also represents the law of Moses. It represents backsliding, because he always says, there's even some scriptures and stuff in there. I didn't write them all down, but you can look it up about when he would blow curses in, it would come from an east wind. And the east, that kind of stuff is backsliding. So they're seeing, though, with their eyes, the plan has already been laid out. The plan is already there, but they're seeing something different, and they're starting to waver. They're starting in their head, let's go back and forth, and then they actually step out on it and say it. And then they go before the leadership. This is where we need to be. This is how it needs to happen for us, because we have cattle. So this needs to happen. Okay, keep going. And they said, if we have found favor in your sight, let this land be given to your servants for a possession. Do not take us over the Jordan. We don't want to go over there, because that can be dangerous. We don't know what's happening over there. We want to stay in the east side. We like this. We want to stay in the east. We want to be back here. Keep going. And Moses said to the sons of Gad and Reuben, shall your brethren go to war while you sit here? Because we're going across. Okay, I didn't realize either. And I started realizing, while they were in the wilderness and stuff, while they were on their journey, they're fighting and stuff, because they're taking territory. This stuff is inhabited. So as they're going, yes, they're manna and all this kind of, but they're taking ground because they're moving. And anytime you're moving, you have to take territory. You're engaging in some type of war. If you're going to go forward, you can't go forward if there's nothing to take. Where are you going? Because something's going to be in front of you. So you can't get a little shaken and start, well, what are we going to do? I don't want to move anymore, because now there's war involved. Now there's something that's going to be hard. And now I've got to push against something. And when I'm with God, it's just supposed to be easy all the time. It's not. If you're taking territory, if you're moving forward, something is going to be there that you have to push past. Okay. Next verse. Why do you discourage the hearts of the Israelites from going over into the land which the Lord has given them? They're putting this wavering heart into them. They're saying, we don't need, come on, y'all, gather with us. We don't need to do that. We don't need to go over there. I know what the plan was, but look, this is better for us. This is better for us. Okay, keep going. Thus your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up to the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the hearts of the Israelites from going into the land the Lord had given them. Keep going. And the Lord's anger was kindled on that day, and he swore, saying, surely none of the men who came up out of Egypt from the 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac. So this is affecting that whole promise. Because that stuff happened then, they're doing it again now. This stuff is generational. That's what happened. This is Elijah's family. This is the lineage that he came from. If you keep going down, I think it's like you go down verse 9. Verse 11, somewhere around verse 11. See what verse 11 says. Okay, keep going. It's verse 20. Okay, this is where, okay, now y'all come with me with this, please. Okay, this is where they compromised. The heading at my King James Bible at that point says, let me find it. I highlighted it. Okay, there was objections of Moses and then conditions to go ahead and grant it. So he knew they weren't supposed to do this, but he compromised. And he let them do it anyway. So it said, if you will do as you say, saying, we'll still fight, we'll still do these things, going armed before the Lord to war. And every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan before the Lord until he's driven out his enemies before him. Because Moses is like, I'm not really looking at what the total plan is. I'm looking at, I need your manpower. So if you'll come over here and let me use your manpower, then I'll go ahead and do that. So they wavered and they ended up agreeing to a waiver. There's two different types of waivers. So the wavering is W-A-V-E-R. The waiver is W-A-I-V-E-R. Two different types of waivers. Okay? So, because they wavered, they ended up agreeing to a waiver. Now, a waiver, the other kind of waiver, is the act or instance of waiving a right or claim. The act of intentionally or knowingly relinquishing or abandoning a known right or claim or privilege. A forfeiture. You know what forfeit means, right? I'm just going to go ahead and bow down here and stop here because I just don't see us going over there. I just don't see that happening for us. I just don't see that. Forfeit, a loss or surrender as a penalty for wrongdoing or a breach in the rules. A loss or surrender. I'm just going to stop here. So that waiver ended up, they agreed with their mouths, it wasn't written. But that waiver ended up coming to pass because of the wavering in their hearts. Okay, let's go back to Elijah. That's enough about them. Okay, so Elijah was a descendant of these people. That is why he said, I'm no better than my fathers. I'm no better than my ancestors. Because look what they did. And I know I'm wavering, God. God came through the thing, and he was like passing by and all this stuff, earthquake, fire, all these things. And still, he tried to get his attention. He's just like, God, I know I'm wavering. I know his heart was wavering. And he started waiving his rights. Let me die. I waive my right to live anymore. Just take me now. I waive my right for all the authority that I possess, all the miracles that have happened. Every way you moved through me, I slew 450 prophets of Baal, all this stuff. The widow has that, all this stuff. But I'm waiving that because my heart is wavering. It wasn't until that time. Go back to 1 Kings, verse 19. Let me see how far we're going to go. So, all through, where we're going to skip through, the angel came and fed him and all those things happened. And then the Lord came, like I said, The earthquake, the fire, that still small voice. And he keeps like saying these things. He keeps on saying, let's see, go to verse 14. I've been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and slain your prophets with the sword. And I only am left, and they seek my life to destroy it. He keeps saying all this victim mentality, all this stuff going on in his head, and I'm the only one left. Now he's saying it and he's acting on it. He's sitting there. I'm not going. I should just sit here and die. Okay, go down. At that point, yeah, go to the next verse. And the Lord God said to him, go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. The next verse. And anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, to be king over Israel. And anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, to be prophet in your place. After all that, God said, okay, someone else is going to come up and be your successor. But that wasn't said at first. He kept on arguing. He kept on going back and forth. And God said, okay, let's have a waiver. Someone else can step up into your place. We can go ahead and do this. So you got to keep living long enough. I'll take you. I'll do that. But long enough to train up him. Long enough to get him ready to come into your place. Okay. All right, y'all come with me because it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. So anytime when you're stepping out on this stuff, when he showed you something, he's shown you a plan, he's shown you where you're supposed to go. In your mouth, you always have the option. God, let's compromise. There's different types of wills of God. There's something called the perfect will, and there's something called the permissive will. There's two different types. In the perfect will is the plan he laid forth in the beginning. At any point in time, Abraham could have said, I'm just going to stick with Hagar. We're not going to do this thing like this. I'm going to go ahead and get everything to my servants, like we saw on Wednesday. You know what? I know you're saying this, but I'm not seeing anything in the physical right now. I'm not seeing, the little test tube. It don't look like anything's happening. Let me deviate. Let me go ahead and do this. And if you do, he'll let you. He'll let you. He's not going to come down and force you to do things his way. But you're not going to see what was laid out in the beginning. So you have to keep pushing through that. You have to keep saying, no, I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to waver. Even with all the stuff Elijah did, and he still does more stuff after that. That's not the end. He's training his successor. But he said with his mouth, let me die. I'm done. I am finished. This shakes me. I don't like how I feel. I don't like what's going on inside. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm not seeing what I think I should see. After all this, I feel like I'm the only one left. The only one left. And he wasn't. He tells him in there. But still. Okay. All right. This is the part we're going to spend a little bit of time on. Go to 2 Kings 2. This is where the call of Elisha happens. I remember, Elijah and Elisha. Elijah was Elisha's mentor. He called him father. He followed him, all these things. Okay. So we're going to see kind of the time span of this. When the Lord was about, no. Go back. Go back to where we were. Because I want to do that one first. Okay. 1 Kings 19:20. Then we'll go there in a minute. 1 Kings 19, verse 20. Okay. Go back a little. 19. Okay. So Elijah left there. Because we were just right before that is where he said, go here, anoint this person, and anoint this one to be your successor. Elijah left there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, whose plowing was being done with 12 yoke of oxen, and he drove the 12th. Elijah crossed over to him and cast his mantle upon him. Okay, so get a picture of this. I think, I wasn't there and it didn't say that, but I think Elijah had an attitude. Now, I know there's a process to these things being done, but the guy's like, okay, we'll go anoint him to be your successor then, because I'm not leaving these people without a true prophet to come and lead them. So you're going to have to stay here long enough. So Elijah probably like, whatever, God. So I'm just going to go do whatever it is that you say to do. But I still think he had a little attitude inside of him. You saw where he came from. Those people were kind of demanding, and they were judging, wavering, all this kind of stuff. So he went over there and he just throw the mantle, just catch it. If that's what you want. Think about that. This man's over here minding his business, plowing with his oxen, and he throwed it out there. Okay. Then he said, he knew what that meant, because there was a process to those things, but I don't know. It seemed like that to me. So, okay, go to the next one. He left the oxen, because he knew, oh, wow, I have Elijah's mantle right here. He left the oxen, ran after Elijah. So Elijah threw it and left because he had to go catch him. He didn't tell him anything, nothing. That's why I say I think he had an attitude, because he had just been in this cave and he was down to the thing. I think he did, for real. And then, so Elijah's like, let me kiss my father and mother and then I'll follow you. And he, testing Elisha, so he knew you're going to have to be tested in this. Said, go on back. Just go handle your business, whatever. What have I done to you? Settle it for yourself. So basically, I'm not the one that wanted you with me in the first place. So go do whatever you want to do. God's the one who said to do it. I'm doing what God said to do. If you need to go handle your business and do whatever. We'll see if you come back. We'll see what happens. So he kind of just, okay. So that being said, first of all, can't nobody ever get mad at me for the way I mentor people again. Because Elisha came after, Elisha chased Elijah. Elijah didn't go back and he said, well, if that's what you want to do, do it. Because if you're really serious about something, you're going to get to that point where you're going to grasp it no matter what. So you don't hear from me. If you get all offended and all this kind of stuff, well, God must not have been really dealing with you about what you said he was dealing with you about. Because Elisha was prepared. He understood. He was plowing the field. He was doing what he had to do his hand to, keep his hand to the plow and all these things. So somewhere God had to deal with him, or he was waiting for that moment in expectancy. I wonder, here I go wondering again, how many years was he waiting to see that? How long was he waiting for Elijah to coming down that road? How long was he waiting to feel that mantle? How long did he have to push through to get to that point? From the time he knew he was going to be anointed. He knew God had spoke to his heart. Okay. God had to have been dealing with him and he was ready. He didn't get offended. He didn't get all been out of shit. Well, there's certain processes to this. So if I'm supposed, then I need to be, taken and you need to come after me and understand that I got to leave my family and all this stuff. No, he threw the thing. He went on about his way and he said, I need to go kiss them. He said, whatever. I don't have nothing to do with you anyway. And he went and chased after him. Okay. So settle it for yourself. That's the way I deal with things. Y'all settle it for yourself. That's how I deal with stuff. Okay, go to the next one. So Elisha went back from him. He did go. But then he took a yoke of oxen, slew them, boiled their flesh with the oxen's yoke as fuel, and gave to the people, and they ate. And then he arose, followed, and there's a reason all that happened. But we're not going into all that right now. That's a process. So he knew what to do. He knew what had to be done now. Because now this has opened up. What you've been telling me is going to open up. I'm seeing it now. I don't know how long he had to push through stuff. I don't know. But I'm seeing this now. But that wasn't it. See, that was the first test for Elisha. Are you even ready to be under me? Are you even ready to learn of me? Are you even ready to study of me? Are you even ready to call me Father? Because if you don't come back, I know you're not. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do after, I know you're not. I know you're not. So he's just testing it. He's tired. He's ready to go. He's done. Done. God agreed to this thing. I'm done. So are you ready? You're not ready. Because it's not on me if you're not ready. God said this. I'm just doing what God said. It's not on me if you take it the wrong way. I'm just doing what God said. That's it. So you're seeing the faith of Elisha. You're seeing the faith of Elijah. I'm just going with what God said to do. He didn't take anything into his own hands. Okay. That was the first test. Now we'll go to 2 Kings 2. Elisha did follow Elijah. He left his family. He left the oxen. He left all of that stuff. He burnt the stuff up and everything. Offerings and sacrifices. That's what all that goes into play with. Sealing up covenants, those kind of things. And he moved on. 2 Kings 2. So now we get to the point in a process. But that wasn't it. He just answered the call. Sometimes I think we get to that point and we think that's it. We're done. We passed that test and now we're done. Elisha still isn't even in the position of a prophet yet. He still hasn't taken on what he knew was supposed to happen. There was all kinds of stuff going on in between here. He's serving him. He's under him. He's submitting to him. He's doing everything that needs to be done. And you know Elijah ain't perfect because he just had his little wavering moments and he's got an attitude. So he doesn't care though. Elisha's like, you know what? I know what God's spoken to me. So I'm just going to do what I need to do. Elijah, you can do what you need to do. Let me follow you. Let me get every piece of everything I need from you. Well, we're going to keep moving. I'm not going to let anything get in the way. Okay. 2 Kings 2. When the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were going from Gilgal. So, this is the point. Elijah is ready. I'm about to be taken up. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I've been training you. I listened to God. I'm ready to go. Elisha's still with him. But there's still more tests to see if Elisha is ready. Okay, go to the next verse. Elijah said to Elisha, tarry here. Wait here. I pray you, please, for the Lord has sent me to Bethel. But Elisha replied, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel. Okay. Where were they at? Gilgal. Gilgal means something. And this is about the internal things that Elisha is dealing with that he has to push through before he's ready to get to that point where he can see Elijah go up. Even at this point, y'all, he doesn't even know anything about the double portion. That hasn't been spoken of yet. Elijah didn't even ask Elisha, what do you need? That hasn't happened yet. He's just doing what was told of him. He's not looking at, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, I'm going to get this. No. He's just doing what was told of him. He really formed a bond with Elijah. He's really halfway doesn't want him to go because this is his father. He's been with him. He left his family for him. He's stuck to him right now. And now Elijah's like, you need to stay here. I need to do this by myself. Elijah knew he was testing Elisha, but he had to pass the test. So Gilgal represents the foundations in religion, the basics. It comes from the word galal, G-A-L-A-L. It means to roll or roll away. And the reference for that is Joshua 5 and 9. When they say he rolled away the reproach from Israel. And we taught on that here before. But he was testing Elisha to see, are you ready for this mantle? Are you ready to give up the basic things and go further? Are you ready to leave the foundational things behind? Are you still stuck on the east side? Are you ready to go to the west side? Are you ready to leave that? Even though I've told you stay. Even though I said stay here in these basics. Stay here like this. You'll be all right. You don't need to go any further. But what did Elisha say? No, I'm going to push past. He's trying to test him and see, are you ready to deal with what's ahead? Because if you can't push past the reproach, you can't push past the east side, you can't push past the things that are in your past and behind you, and you can't push past all of that, there's no way you're ready to get this mantle. There's no way you're ready to step into this position, because you're going to have to fight 450 prophets of Baal or more. Elijah knows you're going to have to go up a people that are heavier than what I had to face. It had me in a cave. If you can't handle this fire, if you can't handle this and leave this place, these basics, this foundation, this religion, this reproach, if you can't handle that, there's no way you can carry this mantle. This is a heavy mantle. This calling of God is different. This is not just a little calling. This is not just a little thing. This is not just a little purpose and a little plan. This is a huge plan. This mantle is heavy. If your shoulders aren't strong enough to push past the foundations of wavering and oscillating back and forth between two opinions, there ain't no way you can carry this. You're going to drop the mantle, and then what is Israel going to do to hear from God? I can't have that on my shoulders. So it's better for you to stay here, Elisha. Stay. It's better for you not to push past this. Stay here. Don't come. Don't follow me. But he didn't. He didn't listen. He pushed past to the next place so he could get what he knew God had told him. This is the thing about words. This is the thing about words. It's so easy. I have to take my shoes off. I'm sorry, y'all. This is the thing. You get a word from God. You know it's from God. Why do we trust people more than God? You get a word from God and you're constantly chasing after people. It is scriptural to ask for 2 or 3 confirmations of a word. But you don't chase people to get what God is supposed to tell you. Because if you're always chasing people, then you'll never make it past those places, because you're still looking for another person. You're still looking for what they see. What is their vision? What do they see? What are they looking at? What are they? No, God told you. God told Elisha. I don't care what Elijah is telling me right now. He told me I was going to pick up this mantle. He told me I was going to do it. That was straight from him to Elisha's heart. You didn't see Elijah go up to Elisha. I'm going to anoint you, because the Holy Spirit says to you, in 30 days, this is going to happen, and you're going to do this, and you're going to follow me, and this is going to happen to you, and that's going to happen to you, and this is going to happen, and you're going to see all this stuff is going to happen because Elijah said it. Elisha never heard those words from his mentor. Elisha never heard that from Elijah. I doubt he even really received much encouragement, because Elijah had an attitude. So he already looking at, I'm going up. I don't care. Either you get it or you get it. Either you have it or you don't. I don't care anymore. So Elisha had to go off of what God told him. His heart couldn't waver. No matter what, this is Elijah. This is the prophet. This is the man he's serving. Stay here. Don't come with me. Don't follow me. He pushed past all of that old mindset. All of that old religion, all of that reproach, all of the east side stuff, he pushed past. And he went on to Bethel. And that wasn't even it, y'all. We still have more places. Okay. They went down to Bethel. Now, what did I tell you about the cities? They are a ways away from each other. I'm sure someone can research out how many miles Gilgal, Bethel, and it almost, I looked at the map. It's kind of like going everywhere. Why? Because they meant something. It was less about the actual place, the physical location, and more about what the testing was going on inside of Elisha's heart. Because it would have been easier if they would have just went just like that. But that's not what happened. He was being tested in each area. Okay. They went down to Bethel. Go to the next verse. The prophet's sons who were at Bethel came to Elisha. Now you got people. Okay, I passed that. I'm not getting stuck in these foundations of religion and all this stuff in my mind. I passed that. Here come people. Do you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you? Did you know that? The Lord is doing this to you. He's taking him away from you. What are you going to do? Here comes the doubt and the questioning. Here comes the, what's going to happen? Am I even ready for this? Can I even handle this? Like, these people come. What did he say? Yes, I know it. Now hold your peace. That's the way of saying shut up in like the, Bible terminology. Like, shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. Hold your peace. You need to be quiet about this. I already have a word from God. I already know what's supposed to happen with me. So whoever comes dwindling in, trying to tell me something different, I'm not going to listen to them. Yes, I know that's going to happen. But he had to choose, even though those words were going, yes, Elijah was about to be taken away, and he knew this. But he had to see it. They were trying to get him to see it differently, to look at the east side, look at a different plan, look at the different way. Look at these things differently. They were trying to get him to look at it as, God's going to leave you alone. And you're going to have to do all this on your own. Then what? Then what? When really, that's a celebration of Elisha being trained up to the point where he can even step into the mantle. But those people are trying to come in and have words and try to get them to waver off onto the other path. But he told them, hold your peace. Okay, go to the next verse. Elijah said to him, once again, Elisha, stay here, tarry here. I pray you, the Lord has sent me on to Jericho. What did Elisha say? As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, while you still here on this earth, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave you because God's spoken to me. Elijah is testing him even further because Bethel means something. Bethel means house of God. But it also means the presence of God in a tangible way. The presence of God in a tangible way. There's a lot of stuff about Bethel and establishing temples and temples of God because the people needed a place to come because they would feel better. It's more of feelings, comfort. I want to feel the presence of God. I want to feel what's happening. I want to sense what's happening. I want that tangible. If I don't feel it tangibly, then I don't know that God's really with me. If I'm not feeling something, I don't know. Maybe it's not what he said. Maybe that's not what he said. That maybe I got off. It's like you saying, God, I have to rely on a feeling more than you. I know I'm supposed to pray if I feel your presence come over me. I know I'm supposed to declare if I feel you coming on me to tell me that at the time when the word already said, the word's already been spoken of what needs to happen and what we need to do. So this is the place where Elisha has to push past not feeling God, not feeling things tangibly so that he can receive that mantle, so that he can see Elijah go up. He has to push past his feeling. He's saying, God, I can't rely any longer on a feeling of you. I just have to trust your word. Because the feelings aren't always going to be there. When you're moving anywhere in life, in ministry, whatever's happening, you have to trust what God's told you to do. You're not going to feel like it. The feelings aren't always going to happen. The little goosebumps aren't always going to be there. The little tingling's not always going to happen like that. That stuff is not going to be there. Tell you what. I've been up here with all kinds of stuff happening, and I didn't feel not a thing. I've been over there sitting, just thinking about lunch, and all of a sudden, I get called up here. I'm not lying. And all of a sudden, I get called up here, cast that demon out. I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm not even thinking about no demon. I'm thinking about what I got to do when I go here. I don't feel nothing. I don't sense nothing. I don't have this overpowering urge coming over me. I don't have this stuff dropping down on me. I've been up there singing, declaring. I don't feel nothing, y'all. Nothing. Nothing. That's the place of Bethel. You have to push past that because that's where you're going to step out on faith. You're not going to step out on faith if you're just sitting there all the time waiting for a feeling. waiting for a tangible thing to come over you. That doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes it does, thank God for that, but it doesn't always happen like that. You can't rely on that. Feelings go up and down. Feelings waver. They vacillate back and forth. They fluctuate up and down. Feelings, you're going to come all this time, you're going to feel this way, then you're going to feel that way. And I had a feeling, and I had this feeling, and I had that feeling. And that's why people don't like to be mentored by me, because I'll tell you exactly, I try to say it in love. The best I can say it, I try so hard. But I just tell you, man, like, stop saying what you're feeling all the time, because I'm tired of hearing what you feel. It's not about what you feel. It's about what he said. Okay, that's great. You got that out. I'm feeling this type of way. I'm feeling that type of way. All this kind of stuff. What did God say? What did he tell you? What did he place before you? What was thrown and cast to you? What do you have? What did you have to leave? What did he tell you to leave? Did you go back? Listen to what he said. It doesn't matter what the feeling is. A feeling will always cause you to waver and end up in a waver. You're going to always end up in that place of, let me just have the permissive will, God. I'll just deal with your permissive will. This is good enough because I'm comfortable. Bethel was a comfortable place. A house of God. Feels nice. I want to stay in the church. I don't like all that outreach stuff. I want to stay in the church. I don't like going out. That's not for me. That's not for me either. It said to all who believe. That's what my Bible says. I don't know what version y'all have, but mine says it's for all who believes to go do that stuff. It's for all who believes to reach everybody. It's not about what you feel. That's what he was dealing with Elisha on. That's what he's dealing with us on. Are you going to go back to the reproach? Are you going to settle on the east side? Are you going to stick with the feelings? Well, I'm only going to move if I feel a feeling. I'm only going to say it if I feel something. That's not the way. If you want more, you can't operate like that. There's a lot of prophets, apostles, all these false people out there, if you want to name it correctly, operating off of feelings. There's some that are sent falsely, just like the ones they sent them to Elisha. Sent. They were prophets. They were sent to try to get you off course. If you're not in a hearing clearly from God, you're going to fall away. That's going to happen. There's a dividing line there. And you can operate permissively. You know, you step over the line like, oh, wow, the hand didn't come down and I didn't die. No, you might not die that day, but it might have been 15 years taken off your life. Who would that happen to? Yep, Hezekiah. Y'all know that story, right? Where he had to go. God said, you're going to die right now. And he had to go pray. And God added 15 years. Permissive. I'm not settling for the permissive anymore. I'm not settling for, okay, it's just okay. It's just good enough. I'll do barely enough to get by. I'll do just what's required to stay in my comfort zone. I'll do barely enough. No, I want more. I'll sacrifice it all, withholding nothing. Withholding nothing. Because I want the perfect will, not the permissive. Okay, let's go forward. Past the feelings, past the reproach, go into Jericho. So they came to Jericho. Sons of a prophets who were at Jericho. They came with them. The voice came. More prophets, same voice. Same thing happening. You're always going to have people. You're always going to have voices, even if it's just the voice in your head. There's always going to be something, and it doesn't mean they're bad people. It could be people that are Christians that have been for you and all these things, but if they're telling you something to try to keep you from going forward, you've got to close your ear off to them. Because if you don't, you're going to end up stepping out in the permissive. You're going to end up not getting to that point that he showed you. Do you know that the Lord will take your master away from you today? What did he tell him? I know that. Shut up. Now, Jericho is the next place. It represents faith outside of feelings. You know, in Jericho, they walked around the city. They were actually physically walking by faith, not based off of what they felt, because nothing was happening. So if y'all like VeggieTales, watch the little VeggieTale one, because it's funny, but it's like, it really puts it in perspective. The little peas are the army people that are trying to keep the Israelites out of Jericho, and they're like sitting on the little wall at the top, and the Israelites are walking around, you know, they're following the instructions and all this stuff, and the little peas are just mocking them, saying, what are y'all doing? Y'all are so stupid. What do you think that's going to do? You have all those swords and stuff like that, and you ain't even trying to fight us. Like, they're just throwing shots at them. They end up singing that little song, keep walking, but you won't knock down our wall. Keep walking, but it isn't going to fall. It's plain to see that your brains are very small. They just keep going, and just tearing these people down. They weren't allowed to say a word. They weren't allowed to talk. They had to walk. They weren't allowed to address any of that stuff coming at them. All those voices, all that tearing down, all that stuff. They weren't allowed to say it. They had to keep walking. When you submit fully to the plan, when you submit fully to what he said, the wall's going to come down. Then in your face. Then there it is. But you can't compromise along the journey. You know, all those prophets that are sitting there telling him, you're going to be alone. He's leaving you. He's not going to be there for you anymore. What's going to happen to you? And they're still in the next city. You need to just stay here. You know God's going to leave you anyway. So that's basically what they're telling him. God doesn't care about you. That's a lie. Whatever God told you, that's a lie. That's what he's trying to get them to waver. He's trying to get him to waver. If he would have listened to that, he would have compromised. He would have stayed there. He would have never received, because he still hasn't asked him, what do you want from me? Because he hasn't passed the test yet. I'm not fixing to transfer to you until you pass the test. I'm not fixing to give you all till you pass the test. Because it's too precious. You have to be able to handle it correctly. You have to be able to utilize it correctly and walk in it correctly. So even when you don't know what's ahead, he didn't know. I'm getting a double portion. He didn't know that Elijah was even going to ask him anything. All he's thinking about, this man has an attitude, but I know what God told me. And he's still bonded with him. We'll see that. You don't even know how many tests are still coming. What next? We've been through all these cities, and it seems like we're going in a circle because this stuff doesn't make sense. Where are we going? What are we doing? Why do you keep telling me to stay here? Why do these people keep trying to tempt me with, you're going to leave me? Inside of him, he has to push past all these things. Even when you don't know what's next or how many more tests there are. Okay. Keep going. Verse 6. Elijah said to him, stay here. Stay in Jericho. You push past the reproach. You push past your feelings. You know, you've got to the place of faith. That's good enough. That's good enough. Stay. You've passed these tests. Just stay here. That's what the enemy tries to do. He tries to see, are you just going to stay? It's good enough. Stay right here. Just coast. Set you on autopilot and let's just coast for a while. Let's just go. Go with the flow. Don't fight it anymore. Don't stand up to it anymore. All these people telling you all this stuff, just good enough. You fought hard enough. You passed all these tests. This is actually the fourth test, because the first one, when he threw the mantle, Gilgal, Bethel, Jericho. Stay here. That's a lot of testing. But what did he say? As the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, you're still here, and God is a living God. That means I will never, I don't care if there's 10 more cities. I don't care if there's 12 more cities. I don't care how far we have to travel. I don't care if it's 150 miles we're traveling here. I will not leave, because I know what God told me. I know the vision he put in my heart. I know the plan that he has for me. I will not leave you. And the two of them went on. So they went on to Jordan. You can go to the next verse. Who was in Jordan? Who was over there? But look what they did. 50 men of the sons of the prophets also went. They followed them. We're going to go to Jordan too. But they stood to watch afar off. But we ain't getting too close to that stuff. Because we don't know what's about to happen. Because I know something's about to happen with Elijah. Elisha, you can go if you want to. But I can't promise you that you're going to come back. Because I'm just going to stand afar off. And they watched the two of them. They watched them go up to the river Jordan. They didn't engage. Anyone who's talking to you, see if they come with you. Anyone who's telling you a whole bunch of words and a whole bunch of stuff, see if they'll come with you up to the river Jordan. See if they're going to step up at that place where you have to have faith. What are you going to do? Jordan represents being admitted or initiated into good and truth. This is the point where he gets what he's looking for. But if he would have stopped at any of those other places, he would have never been admitted or initiated. He would have never entered into the office. If he would have listened to those people, he would have stopped. He wouldn't have been able to get there. Okay, so what happened? Let's keep reading. Elijah took his mantle and rolled it up and struck the waters. And they divided this way and that, so that the two of them went over onto dry ground. So he parted. Like Moses wasn't the only one who did that. He parted and went on dry ground, him and Elisha. But the other ones wouldn't go. The ones talking, speaking in his ear, trying to get him off course every single time, they wouldn't go. But Elisha followed him through. He said, I'm getting initiated today. I know it. I know what God has told me. Go to the next one. And when they had gone over, then Elijah asked Elisha, ask what I shall do for you before I'm taken from you. And that's where Elisha said, let a double portion of your spirit be on me. He didn't even know if he was going to get that. He went through all those cities. You always hear about Elisha had a double portion of Elijah. And you're thinking that's why he went through all the stuff he went through. That's not why. He didn't know. You have to be able to push past this stuff and not know. You have to be able to stick to your faith and what God's told you and not know that you're getting the double portion. Not know. You have to trust what God has told you in your heart. The vision he's put for you in front of you. If you're not willing to do this, if you're not willing to cross the Jordan, even though everyone else is waiting behind, then you're not going to get to ask for what you want to ask for. Don't just stand up and I'm going to ask whatever I want to ask for, just like they did. You didn't go through what they went through. You didn't push through the points they pushed through. You didn't go through those cities. You didn't push past your feelings and your emotions. You didn't leave the reproach behind. You didn't do what they did. So it's not granted to you the way it's granted to them. If you're walking in the permissive, you're never going to get to where, grant what I have for you. Just ask me and I'll give it to you. If you stay in that zone, you will never get there. If we stay in that place, we will never get there. You'll never see it. Elisha did have an in your face moment though. I liked that one. I liked that part. Keep going. He said, you have asked a hard thing. Because you know what Elijah operated in. And you want double? Whew. I don't know about that, boy. I don't know about that. However, if you see me, he didn't know he had to see him. He didn't know he had to stay with him. He was staying with him because of the word that was in his heart. He was staying with him because God had spoke to him. No one told him before he pushed through all those cities, you better stay with Elijah. Because if you don't stay with Elijah, you're not going to get what you asked for. No one told him that. He knew. Now Elijah's just telling him after they've crossed the river Jordan, after the whole miracle and everything's happened. Now he's telling him, if you see me, when I am taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so. So that means there is an if not. There is a permissive. The perfect is for you to see me so you can get what you asked for. But there's a permissive. If not, if you fall asleep, if we got to wait out here for 24 hours and you fall asleep on it, you don't see it, it's not going to happen then. You'll still be a prophet, You'll still have those things. That's not enough for me. Elisha said, that's not enough for me. I want all of it. I'm withholding nothing because I want all of it. I'm not going to stay in the place of comfort anymore. I'm not going to stay where my feelings are getting tickled anymore. I'm not going to stay in that place. I'm not going to listen to all those other voices. They're still standing afar off watching. That's fine. Separation is going to have to take place. Because if the separation doesn't take place, you're not going to be able to see what you need to see. You're not going to be able to get what you need to get. Keep going. As they still went on and talked, behold, here it came. They were in the middle of talking. They didn't know when this stuff was going to happen. You're not always going to know. Give me a time frame. You don't know a time frame. What time frame? It goes off of your faith. It goes off of what he's spoken. There's other people that got to be pulled into it that you don't even know about yet. And you're sitting here waiting on, I need to see this and I need to see, and what time is it going to happen at? Because I need to be ready. Just prepare yourself and be ready then. Don't be waiting all the time. I need this. And you're not going to know when. A chariot of fire and horses of fire parted the two of them. So here comes the separation. Did it happen? The prophet said he was going to be taken away. So did that happen? Yeah, they were right. It did happen. He was taken away. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Go to the next verse. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel and its horsemen. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his own clothes and tore them. That was the sign of grieving. Because they're separated. They were together for a long time. He pushed past all of that stuff with him. To see him, to get to him, to be with him. They were tied. But the separation had to happen. Or else Elisha never would have got the double portion. The next verse. He took up also the mantle of Elijah that fell from him and went back and stood by the bank of the Jordan. Does that look familiar from the first time he was called? It was a prophetic act. Elijah didn't say anything. Elijah threw it out. Elisha picked it up. He went back and did what he needed to do. And then he went forward. It's the same thing. He was preparing him for him stepping up into his office. If you couldn't handle the way I did this, you won't handle the double portion. If you can't handle the way I dealt with you then, you'll never handle what you have to go up against whenever you get out there. If you can't handle the way I'm dealing with you, you can't handle this. You have to push past this. You have to get past this point without wavering. All right, let's watch what happened because I like the next part. He went back. He took the mantle. He did what his teacher told him to do. He rolled it up. He struck the waters. He said, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? When he had struck the waters, they parted just like they did for his father, for his mentor. Then he went over and then go to the next verse. All those prophets watching out there, seeing what's happening. They saw him and they said, the spirit of Elijah rests on him. That's the boom moment. I don't care what you said. Yes, he departed. They could see the physical difference in him because of what he pushed past. They could see physically what happened to him and what rested upon him because of what he had to push through. They could see that stuff. They didn't get it. They weren't willing to go through all of that. They weren't willing to push past it. They were going to waver. They're going to compromise. They're going to do that stuff. But he couldn't do that. And that's what they said. The spirit of Elijah rests on him. He got it. He got it. That was the point. Everything that he had to push past. A lot of people don't realize what it takes to get to that point. You can't succumb to what they're saying. You can't succumb to what they're telling you. I'm going to share a little bit of a faith testimony because I want to build y'all's faith. Last week, on Tuesday, when we were out at that retreat, I left my job. I resigned. Yes, I had talked to my husband about it. I didn't just do it without anybody knowing. But I've been there for 9 years. But there's a story to that. There's a story to that. That job, there was a reason for that job. And there was a process to it. That job was a step of faith for me. Whenever I had just got out of college with my bachelor's degree, and I had my son Matthew. He was a baby. And when I got into college, my plan was, I'm going to go to medical school. That's what I want to do. And I did a degree for pre-med biology. Went to medical school, to go to medical school. So I went through that. And Bob and I were married in college. We got married like right after we graduated. And then we had Matthew like a few years later. And at that point, once I had him, I realized I don't want to go through all those hours away from my son. Like I don't want to do that because it takes a lot of hours for medical school. And I was preparing myself for it. I was looking at all that stuff. So I decided to go into teaching. And when I went into teaching, I wasn't prepared. When I had Matthew, I was actually 20 when I had Matthew, and then I turned 21 the 2 days later. I was still in the hospital. So I was pretty young. I did a lot of things young. I was like, I don't know. God had to do that to build some things in me so that I could get here. And I was raised, in a pastor's home. Don't be fooled by stuff from the outside. Because a lot of people try to put on a front of things. Being in ministry is some of the heaviest warfare you'll ever be in. I have prayed, I don't know how many times, I just want to go to church and sit there. Because it's so much. And I didn't want to be a pastor's kid. I didn't want that stuff. I was good. But on the inside, I was like, I had to sit in the front row all the time. I was up there playing at 14 years old and singing and all this stuff. And people look at that like, oh, that's great. That's a lot. That is a lot. And so, as a child in a minister's home, I always felt very like limited, held down, pushed down, never get into, experience anything or do anything because I always had to put on this front. That's how I felt. No one told me that. So let me clarify that. I wasn't told, raised up, you have to know. That's how I took it. So I was in a minister's home. So I know what that stuff is like. I know what it's like to be in that position. Your parents are doing what they need to do and moving around. I was moved around a lot. I went to 17 different schools from the time I was in kinder to the time I graduated high school. And I ended up in Shiner graduating high school. And I went to college and went down to Corpus for a little while and then moved back to Victoria. So I ended up changing the plan and going into teaching because I knew that was my plan. And I had gotten a prophecy a few years before that was going to happen, but I didn't listen to it. It told me, what you were planning to do and how it was going to change and all this stuff. I didn't listen to it. So I went And I got into teaching. And I thought it was going to be good because my grandmother had been teaching for she's been teaching now. She still substitutes teaches, y'all, and she's 80. She's almost fixing to be 81 years old. She's been teaching since she was 20. She's she knows how to operate a classroom and everything. And I thought, well, this is going to be good. This is in my family and everything. I had so much insecurity and so much identity problems inside of me. I hadn't pushed through those cities. I hadn't pushed through those places like Elijah. I hadn't pushed through that spot. So I got into the teaching. There was other things that happened that, the school didn't hold up their end of the deal with stuff. It was a rough school. I was teaching high school, 9th and 10th grade, biology, chemistry, physics, those things, because I had this degree in pre-med biology. So I'm going to push through this stuff, And I passed my test, my certifications and all those things, but I had to do a year of being in the classroom before my certification got solidified. And when I went into the classroom, I had all these ideas. I had all these plans and all these things, but I just wanted the kids to like me. And I'm 21, young. I look like one of them. This is high school. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted them to like me. I wanted them to want to be in my class. I wanted them to want to be around me. And we're youth pastors at the time. So it's I used all of that in my interview to get the job. Because I had to convince these people to give me a job without having a valid certificate. And I used all of that stuff. And I got into the classroom. And I did good for a couple weeks. Couldn't find my mentor. Couldn't find the people that were supposed to be teaching me or training me. I was just lost. And I ended up just looking to the students to show me what I needed to do, to help me figure out how to teach. And of course, students are not going to lead you in the right direction. But I started listening to those voices. I started compromising. I had Christian music playing in my classroom. I started putting on the music they wanted. I started putting on the little hip hops and that kind of stuff and doing all those things. I ended up becoming friends with the kids as their teacher. And I ended up in a position where I knew I was sinking, but my pride wouldn't let me say anything. I wouldn't say anything to anybody. I'm still on the praise and worship team at this time. Every Sunday, I'm getting up there. I end up looking to the students, all of those little insecurities of being moved around, instability, all these things. So if they would tell me, buy us some beer, buy us some cigarettes, I would go do it. I would give it to them. I ended up going with them, drinking, smoking. Ended up getting into drugs, all kinds of things. This whole time, nobody knows this. I'm still getting up. Bob doesn't even know it. If he would have known that, something would have changed. He didn't know. I end up just keep going. This lasted probably till about October. I'm a journaler. So I journal everything that I'm feeling in these journals. I end up getting a soul tie with one of these kids. They're not young kids. They're 17, 18 years old. And it's like a pull. If y'all know what soul ties are. It's like a pull. So what happens is I start journaling in the journal what we were doing. Going off and smoking and all this kind of stuff and how I would buy them whatever and do whatever for them. And it ends up being a hand of control because y'all know kind of my childhood stories of going from underneath this hand of control. And I wanted that. It felt secure to me to be in bondage. It felt secure to me to be controlled and be told what to do. So I looked for spiritually, you can see the spiritual side of all this stuff. I looked for another person or that this was operating through and succumbed to it. And when that happened, I ended up engaging in appropriate stuff with these kids. And the principal, one time, they ended up taking my car, and the principal saw it. They were driving my car around town and that kind of stuff. They caught it on camera. So they come call me. I was after school. I'm literally living a dual life here, y'all, because I'm in the classroom signing up for Mary Kay with another coworker. They have no idea. And the kids come in, grab my keys, and leave. Then the principal pages me down there. It's after school. And so, long story made short, they saw something that was off. So they send me home, leave without pay, administrative suspension leave. They search my classroom. They find my journal. They read all this stuff. I'm at the point, I'm broken, just sitting there like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, because I'm facing prison at this point. If they take that journal and they put it up there, I'm facing prison. I have a baby. He's 6 months old. I have a husband. I have a house. I have a car. It looks like everything is going great. I'm facing prison, and I'm sitting here looking at this. So, I didn't know what to do. I did tell my parents. They agreed in prayer, but they pretty much were, well, we'll see what happens. I resigned my position at the school. I didn't finish my year of teaching, so I didn't get my certification, but I didn't care anymore. I just resigned. I just wanted it all to go away. So I resigned my position. I went to the superintendent's office, and I could tell this one lady, this other principal, she was in there with us, and she was just so cold-hearted. She's the one that found all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't know if this is going to work, but I gave him my letter, and I said, I'm not going to teach anymore. I'm done teaching. Like, I won't come around. I won't do nothing. Nothing. I said, I did just have this baby. There were struggles in between there. I mean, I was struggling with suicide after I had, Matthew, and I was struggling with postpartum depression really, really, really badly. I was under a lot of control. There was a lot of stuff happening that led me to this emotional state. And so I get to that point, and I give the letter. Like, I don't even know what's going to happen. So I'm sitting there. They said, well, the state will be calling you when they conduct their investigation. So there's a place on the state website where you can look up your license, like your teacher license. And it's got a flag on mine. And it says, under investigation, inappropriate conduct. Like, man, I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do. But all I want is for this to just disappear. I'm like, God, I know I was in your permissive will. I know I stepped out on something that I should not have done. So, when I checked that, they ended up calling me. The state called me. They said, well, if you will, I think there was a lot of problems in that school over there, and that there was a lot in that district at the time. They've redone everything now, but at that time there was a lot going on. And they said, well, we're kind of investigating a lot of stuff, but if you promise you never set foot in the classroom again, then we'll drop the case. I said, I promise you, I will not. I mean, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. I will not do that. And so they dropped the case. That was a miracle that it even happened. So, but I keep going, and every time I look up on this website, I find this little thing still on my name. It's like it's always going to be there. Like it's not going to change. Like no matter what, it's not going to change. So I'm telling you my cities right now. So if y'all are really realizing this, my Gilgals, my Bethels, I'm telling you. In the place of Gilgal where the reproach is washed away. When I left that job, all reproach washed away. I'm cleansed. I'm free. I'm moving forward. You dropped it. You cleansed me. I'm not going back to Egypt. So then I move forward. So I end up getting a job with like MHMR over there, Gulf Bend Center, and I worked there for a couple of years. But there's no like advancement. And we have Michael now, and I'm getting my master's degree and a lot of stuff is happening. And it's like, they won't give us raises. They won't do anything. I've been here 2.5 years and nothing's happening. I could feel myself being pushed out of my comfort zone, out of my Bethel, because I'm like, I don't know. So I go for a little bit and I hear about this job with Region 3, which is the job that I just resigned, with ECI. And it's like going into homes, and a lot of what I'm doing at Gulf Bend, going into homes and helping the families and doing therapy with babies, but it's with babies. It's not with older, people like I was doing at Gulf Bend, older people. And now I'm with babies and all these things. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. But the only problem is that thing is on my name and they're in with the school district. It's an education service center. And so I got scared. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to even apply because I don't want this to open up again. My mind, I'm a thinker. I think way down the road. So before I make a decision, I've gone way past to see what the outcome of it is going to be. I go to the website, thinking about it. I don't know. I said, you know what I've got to do? I've got to go back to that school. I need to see my file. And I need to see what they put in there because I know these people are going to look up my file. I know they are. So I said, even if I don't put that, people just don't put that job on there. Well, this is the school. Your name is going to pop up. So I went over there. I was shaking that day. I wanted to throw up. So I didn't want to face me. I didn't want to face that was real. I didn't want to face that was really a real time in my life. Like, I didn't want to face that. So I went up there. I asked for a room, and they gave me a room and they gave me in that folder. Y'all want to open that folder. There was no journal. There was nothing in there. There was an admission letter. There was an evaluation and there was a resignation letter. There was nothing that any of that stuff had ever even happened at all. I was literally screaming. I came out. I was like, I'm applying for that job. I'm applying. And I applied. There was over 200 applicants for that job. I didn't even have the credentials. They wanted an RN. I wasn't an RN. Had my medical background. There was a reason for that. But I wasn't an RN. When I went into that interview, I knew my coworkers at my other job had applied too. And they had applied before too. This is like their second or third time applying. They didn't get it. And they were telling me, just if you don't get it, it's okay. And all these things and all this stuff. And I just went into there and I just said, God, I know this is what's supposed to happen. And I was stepping out on faith with it. I did the interview. I left. So it felt like it went good, but you never know. So then I get a call the next day and they said, we want to hire you. And I looked on the website. The little thing that had been there for all these years was totally erased. There was no record. There was nothing of anything happening. So if you do stray off and stuff happens, when you come back to the original plan and the original purpose and intent, He'll handle the rest. The blood will come in and cover it and wash it. And you'll be able to do what you need to do. So then, I get the job and everything. So that was a step of faith for me. So this past week, what I did was leave that place. Because that was a place of comfort. That became a new Bethel, a new feeling, a new place of, I know you gave this to me, God, so I want to coast here. I want to stay here. I even compromised and went down to part-time a couple years ago. Well, I can do it. I can handle it all. He said no more. After I did that at the retreat, when we were singing Withholding Nothing, I heard him tell me, finally, you're withholding nothing. Finally. So you look at me up here, intimidating Rebekah, who always walks around and all this stuff. And you never think what's actually happening behind the scenes. I have to push through my cities too. I have to go through these places too. Nobody's exempt from this stuff. I'm leaving that to go to a private school and help with the school. He brings everything back to where it's supposed to be and centers it the right way. If you deviate, he'll put you back on that path. So I'm telling y'all, when he tells you to move, you have to go off of the word that he planted in your heart, and you can't waver. You can't go to the permissive side. You have to stay in the perfect will of what he told you. And when you do, he'll cover the rest. He'll take care of anything that's holding you back, anything that's hurting you, anything that's trying to keep you down. When you push past and you break through that point, that mantle is waiting for you. It's been waiting for you. It's been sitting there. When you get that determination, that drive of faith in you, nothing can shake it. That's the point where we all need to be. I know everyone's going through their own cities and their own timings and their own stuff. Push past it. Keep going off the word he told you. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. In my mind, I'm scared. But in my heart, the vision is pulling. The vision is calling. The vision is out there. You can feel it. You can taste it. It's there. Everyone stand up. Put on that. If you're online, we're fixing to listen to 2 songs here. One is called Lord of the Breakthrough, and one is called Only You by Israel Houghton. So bye to the online people. Y'all give God praise. As we listen to these songs, if there's anyone here today, you have not given your heart to Christ, you have not made that act